Hello everybody, Jake, your resident content cowboy here, yeehaw, and it is Monday. On Mondays, we do tier lists, and on Wednesdays, we wear pink.
Well, half the people in this room are mad at me, and the other half only like me because they think I push somebody in front of a bus. So that's not good.
No, it's not really required of you to make a speech.
It's just plastic. It's really just...
I'm doing this tier list live. This is, admittedly, this is take number 2. I screwed up take number 1. This is take number 2. This is going to be our Delphox tier list. I'm doing this live on YouTube. You, if you're watching this on YouTube now, are seeing the saved and maybe slightly edited version of this, but a ton of people are here with me live as we figure out our tier list now that Delphox has been released. There haven't been any other balance changes to Unite. I'm smacking my microphone like crazy. There haven't been any other balance changes to Unite. So Delphox really is the biggest thing that has changed in the meta right now. I would love to hear from the chat where we should start. There are so many different places to go, and while we all try to decide that, I will let you know what is on our tier list, or what our tiers are. We have our God tier, of course. Only one Pokemon enters our God tier. We're not freaking Norse around here. We have our S tier, which for today will be our Silly Goose tier. Being a Silly Goose is extremely good in Pokemon Unite, as apparent that it is the S tier. We have the A tier, the A less Silly Goose tier. Still very, very good, but less Silly Goose, obviously. We have our B tier. And, yeah, we've got our B tier. So that's... I don't know what to say about that. We still have a B tier. And the chat, you can even see it. I mean, still have a B tier. It's unbelievable, but that's where we are at this point. We've got our C tier. Could be more of a Silly Goose tier. And then we have our D tier. Don't even act like this is a Silly Goose. So... let's face it, I don't know how many Pokemon are going to be entering our D tier right now. I think the game is pretty dang balanced, but I'll kind of try to talk through it and separate some things. It's always fun to sort of spread our wings a little bit and maybe differentiate things even more by putting something all the way down into the D tier, but I do think the game is pretty decently balanced right now. So... let's go ahead and start this off here. I think I saw some people asking for Speedsters. Yeah, I saw a few people asking to start with Speedsters, so we can start with Speedsters right here. And as I'm going through this again, chat, I would love to hear your feedback, as long as we're all cool with each other. We don't have to go, you're a freaking idiot. Let's start with Speedsters. You know what? Let's start with something that I think is solidly B, that used to be very, very good. Let's start with Talonflame. Talonflame is an interesting Pokemon because for a little while, Talonflame was crazy good. Okay, so Talonflame was actually crazy bad when the game first got released, and then it got crazy good after a few buffs, and then they continued to nerf Talon. They just keep nerfing Talonflame. Right now, because of the nerfs that it's received, and because of some of the things that have happened inside the meta, thank you so much for becoming a member. I really appreciate that. Barry, 4 months. Because of the nerfs and because of some shifts in the meta, most importantly, really, really tanky Pokemon and Pokemon like Blissey, I feel like Talonflame is in the worst spot it's been since since the release of the game. Excuse me, no, since it got those big buffs. So the release of the game was, got some big buffs. Ever since these big buffs, it has kept getting worse, and the meta has kept moving on past Talonflame a little bit. For a little while, I thought this Pokemon was one of the best Pokemon in the game, but right now, I'm just gonna have to say, I think Talonflame hangs out solidly B. Competitively, it might be even worse than B. I just think there's so much that Talonflame runs into that it has a tough time dealing with. However, solo, I mean, you can kind of make any Pokemon work. It is a carry Pokemon. If you get more experience and more levels than your enemies, you will do well. But I just don't think that means that Talonflame is doing particularly good right now. We've got some Buff the Birds in the chat. Gengar is really bursty. Talon is irritating AF. Interesting. Talon is pretty irritating, but I don't find it too difficult to deal with right now. And this is coming from someone who loves playing Talonflame. Let's do Absol. Absol, I think, is an A-tier Pokemon right now. It's close to S at times, but I think that's probably giving Absol a little too much credit. So Absol is really good early, really good middle of the game if you've kept a level advantage over your enemies, and then depending on how high your level advantage is near the end of the game, it's also still pretty good. You're seeing Absol get played way more competitively. Solo, it's a bit of a monster, and the interesting thing about Absol is you actually don't need to play it in the central area. Most players are stacking attack weight on Absol right now. In fact, attack weight's just really popular in general right now. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for the super chat, Jake. I'm Jake from the future. I've come back to tell you not to start this tier list with a speedster. It causes an apocalypse in the future. Well, we are where we are at this point. So I think that Absol is almost one of the top tier Pokemon. The things holding Absol back are it's just very, very squishy. And if you don't get your stacks in, or if you don't get a large level lead, like with a lot of speedsters, you're kind of in trouble. So that's why I think Absol is very solid, but definitely not in the top tier of Pokemon inside this game. That's where I'm feeling. That's where I'm feeling. Let's see. People want to see that ghosty boy. Let's talk about Gengar. I think Gengar is also right up there with Absol. I think it's an A tier Pokemon. I don't think it makes it into the S tier unless you're simply considering it purely from a carry perspective. If you're only looking to carry and KO tons of enemies with a Pokemon, Gengar is one of the best in the game. High skill ceiling, meaning you've got to be pretty good to be pretty good with Gengar. But if you're pretty good with it, you keep a level advantage, you can delete enemy Pokemon. And the thing about Gengar is it's like dominoes. You know, you're setting them up and then you just start knocking them all down. As soon as you get one KO, boom, 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 you can start KOing everyone. The problem is when you don't get the one KO, then you are in a lot of trouble. Very little mobility outside of its Unite move. You can use Dream Eater to escape from situations. You can also use it to get into situations, but Gengar needs a big burst of damage. Because of that, and because it just doesn't fit into every team composition, Blissey can still kind of safeguard it at certain points. I think Gengar hangs out in an A tier for most situations, which is crazy because it never used to be here, I don't think. It never used to be here. I think it's a solid A tier Pokemon for sure, and I'm seeing that in the chat. Solid A. Gengar in mobile is pretty hard to control. Interesting. Gengar is the new Talonflame. I kind of agree with that, actually. Gengar is kind of the new Talonflame. Now we have Zera Aura. Okay, so I don't know where to put Zera Aura. Let me talk briefly about Zera Aura while hovering it into the C tier for a moment. Zera Aura might be a Pokemon that I put all the way down into the D tier. It's probably a Pokemon that I talk about most often as being the most in need of some balance. Now, it doesn't mean that Zera Aura is bad. I think it's actually probably closer to a C tier choice. Here's the issue with Zera Aura. Zera Aura is fine. It needs way too much experience. It doesn't evolve. It gets its moves way too late. It gets its plus moves way too late. It got its damage nerfed on its discharge. It got its damage nerfed on its Unite move. It got a lot of fixes. I think it was over nerfed a while back. You know, Talonflame got nerfed, and now the meta has kind of pushed Talonflame down. I think Zera Aura just kept getting nerfed at some point. It was pretty great, but man, it just kept getting nerfed at some point. So I think to get Zera, weirdly enough, if you just buff this a little bit, if you change its leveling a little bit, I think Zera could rise all the way up the ranks and become kind of an S tier Pokemon. And I think that's the balancing act that they have with a lot of these speedsters, is that these speedsters need to get pushed up, and if you tweak them a little, all of a sudden they are crazy, crazy good. For my chat, we see a lot of Zeras. I think Talonflame was over-nerfed. I agree. I think it was also over-nerfed. We got a B for Zera. Don't hate Zera. I don't hate it. I think Zera is... I think Zera is just in need of some love, and that's why it's definitely the lowest speedster on the list, in my opinion. I think it's definitely the lowest, but if you're good with it, you can do pretty well. It is a carry, for sure, so that's always something to consider. Those are our speedsters. Where should we go next? Where should we go next? What do people want to see? Let's go with... Let's do all-rounders. I saw some people talking about some of the all-rounders in the chat. Ooh, we got some supporters. All right, we got supporters. We're going supporters. Well, I've been talking about Blissey a ton. Let's just start with Blissey. Blissey's nuts, guys. Blissey is just really, really crazy. So the meta is kind of focused around 2 Pokemon right now, both of them being supporters. So I'm just going to put them both up here so we can talk about them at the same time. Almost every single competitive team is running both Blissey and Hoopa. If you're in a solo duo queue game, I think you would be foolish to not have one of the two, hopefully both on your team. These Pokemon are crazy. They're just crazy. So we'll start with Blissey and then we'll talk about Hoopa right here. Blissey has 2 builds that are both nuts, and they're I mean, both are working. Well, not even 2. Every single move inside Blissey's kit is being used right now. Safeguard, Helping Hand, Soft Boiled, and Egg Bomb. All of them are being used. The full egg build, I see it run in solo queue, and on teams, it's crushing, healing sometimes 200,000 health in a game, and securing objectives and disrupt. It's just nuts. I see teams running Helping Hand and Safeguard still, which is incredible. Safeguard is one of the best abilities in the entire game. The only problem with Blissey is you have so many things you want to do with this Pokemon. It is the most support Pokemon in the game right now, and it's simply incredible. I don't know if other things need to be buffed or if Blissey needs to be nerfed, but at this point, I think Blissey is just kind of a necessary Pokemon to have on most teams. I think it's crazy. I think it's just crazy. And then we have Hoopa. Hoopa is just... What do you do with this Pokemon, right? What do you do with a Pokemon that it does... What it does is so unbelievably useful. You can't even start. Even playing by yourself, playing solo, if you're an amazing Hoopa and you get your levels, you get your experience. First off, early in path, you're crazy because Astonish is amazing. Your range, you do a ton of damage. If you get enough experience to unite just 2 times in a game, 1 time at second Dreadnought and then 1 time at Zapdos, you can single-handedly change what your team is doing. You can, as a solo queue player, all right? You, as a solo queue player, you can actually get a Unite move, have it ready for Zapdos, let your team run away, okay? They can run away all the way to the other side of the map over here, boop, 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 and make those horrible scores on the enemy goals while Zapdos is up, and you can actually prevent that. Hoopa has the ability to prevent your own team from possibly trolling you. When you throw your Unite move after they've tried their score that will inevitably fail, you can actually bring them in and stop the fight from going horrible. It's just... and then now think of the implications of that competitively. Obviously, if you've watched competitive games, I don't believe there is a single competitive team outside of teams that are kind of like crushing it in a series or whatever that doesn't have Hoopa on their roster. I don't think there's a single competitive team that doesn't have Hoopa on their roster. And supports are just crazy right now. Thank you so much, Unstable Toad, for the super chat, by the way. I do appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, yeah, I just think we're looking at, I mean, this is Will Smith and this is Martin Lawrence, right? These are the bad boys of Pokemon Unite. Great. I wish I had a bad boys clip right now. Okay, let's go to our next supporter. Let's do Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime. So, Mr. Mime, I think, hangs out between the B... It kind of hangs out between B and C. But it's not bad. So, I think that's why I'm going to leave it B for now. It does good damage with its confusion. Its Psychic is still pretty underwhelming. You have the ability to block off sections of the map if you're running, you know, Barrier. And Guard Swap has gotten better. The only problem is a little while back they nerfed Mime, and recently they buffed its Unite move, which is cool. It's nice that it got a little love. I thought it never ever needed a nerf. It was never the most dominant Pokemon out there. So I think I'm going to leave this one B for the time being. Yeah, a lot of people in the chat are saying B. I see some C's as well. I can see that. I think Mr. Mime is very good. But, well, first off, would you rather have a Mime or a Blissey? Blissey. Would you rather have a Mime or a Hoopa? Hoopa. So if you're comparing it to other supporters, I mean, you could put it all the way into the D tier when you're comparing it to other supporters on this list. But it is tanky. It does a lot of damage. I really enjoy playing with it. Its Unite move is pretty decent. But all in all, I just feel like they nerfed it for no reason, and now it kind of hangs out in this weird space. It needs a little love. A little love, but not as much as Zera Aura, I don't think. So I'm keeping it B. Our next supporter, Wiggly. This is an interesting one. I'm also going to put Wiggly in the B tier. Wiggly is a Pokemon that at one point was incredible. At one point, I think this was maybe one of the best, most useful Pokemon in the game. This was before Hoopa, and it was before so much of the game felt like it was denying your ability to put people to sleep. Now that no one can ever go to sleep, it feels like Wiggly, it just keeps dropping in viability. It's not bad. Its Dazzling Gleam has good secure. When you put people to sleep and walk into the enemy team, it's very disruptive. But you just keep finding ways that this Pokemon can't do what it needs to do. One of the biggest ones being Blissey. Another one even being Hoopa. You know, when you have a Hoopa on the enemy team and they're putting out hyperspace holes and things like that, it's great for Wiggly to put someone to sleep, but what does that matter if the person who's asleep can just get teleported back to base? What does it matter if you can throw down a safeguard and they don't go to sleep anyway? And now that Buddy Barrier is worse, it just feels like, I don't know what this is. And I don't know if chat, if you've felt this at all, but I feel like Wiggly's Unite used to feel super impactful. And now I'm just thinking, I don't know, this Unite doesn't feel very amazing to me at all. I don't think its Unite ever got a nerf. I just think it was its Unite in combination with Buddy Barriers and things like that. I think Wiggly is just falling off. And the problem is, if you have to directly compare these, again, Blissey and Hoopa to Mime and Wiggly, I would say they're not in the same ballpark. They're not even close. I'm missing a supporter. Yes, I'm missing Eldegoss. Eldegoss is a weird one. So while I talk about Eldegoss, I'm just going to set it in the God tier. This is not where Eldegoss is going, but I just wanted to set it on our board a little bit. Wiggly got a Unite move nerf? Oh, so that is what it is, too. Wiggly also got a Unite move nerf. See? Now we're doing this live, and there we go. So here's the thing about Eldegoss. Eldegoss, I think, is good, but it's ranged, and it heals, and it does damage, and it does every single one of those things worse than Hoopa. Every single one of them. Maybe it slightly does more damage. Maybe it doesn't turn into a crazy monster with its Unite move or anything like that. It doesn't heal like Blissey. It is ranged, which I think is a massive advantage for this Pokemon. Putting a Muscle Band on Eldegoss I think is really great. I think Eldegoss for me sits between A and B. Probably. I would say it's better than both Mime and Wiggly. It's a pretty solid Pokemon, but the other thing about it is I do think it gets shot down to D tier once again when you're putting it up against the other supporters. So while I think it's very good, I also think it's not very viable outside of, you know, solo and duo play. I guess you could drop an attacker role and put Wiggly in it and run 3 supporters. We've seen teams do that. But right now, I'd almost consider it B+ tier, just because it's so it gets outshined so incredibly hard by the other 2 supporters here. But I don't know. I don't know if we need to add a B+ tier. I mean, that would just be, wow, I can't believe this is happening. A B+ tier. I'm not happy about this. Wait, this one stays B. Add a row above. This is not good. Jeez. B+ tier. How did it even happen? How did we get here? I mean, think of all the things that needed to happen for this to go on. Now we've got a B+ tier? This is not good. I don't like this at all. Here we are, though. I mean, this is the reality we're in right now. I mean, we have to accept that at this point we have a B+ tier. Why? I don't know. B tiers are multiplying. Be scared. Be very scared, you know, hug your family, keep your loved ones close, because I don't know what's going to happen at this point. But B+ is here, and it's not ideal. It's not ideal for anyone. But that's where I think Eldegoss kind of hangs out. And the reason, again, I don't even think of it as an A tier Pokemon is just because it's so outclassed by other supporters. What are we going to do next? What's the next roll? Still got the B+ tier. Watch out for the B tier. That's right. Jake has been drinking a bit, just a bit of coffee here. That's it. That's it. Just a bit of coffee. Let's see. Defenders, attackers, all-rounders. We have a lot of all-rounders in the chat. We're going to go all-rounders. Okay, let's go with Charizard. Charizard is a Pokemon that I'm actually really glad that we have a B+ tier, because that is actually where I'd like to see Char. For a long time, I have been a big fan of Char. I think it's super solid. B+, by the way, is not a bad Pokemon at all. These are very, very good Pokemon, even though the tier is unbelievably distressing. B+, I think, for Char makes sense just because Charizard's Unite move, I swear to you, it gets canceled more than anything. Charizard's Unite move is always getting canceled. It is so frustrating dealing with all of these things that cancel its Unite moves. All the full heals, all the safeguards, all the Pokemon that, you know, Machamp's dynamic punch, all of a sudden your Unite move gets canceled. So I think that Char hangs out here for me because of that, simply because of that, and also because its Unite move is the best thing about it. And when your Unite move is the best thing about you, and you can get into situations where not having your Unite move for just a moment can change the entire outcome of a team fight, I think that hurts this Pokemon. Now, of course, get good, be better, know your targets, figure out where you're going to Unite. But in general, I just think this Pokemon could be better if its Unite move didn't get canceled every freaking second, and it gets canceled every freaking second. Okay, next all-rounder, Garchomp. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I'm going to set this in the D tier for a moment while I talk about this, and I might raise it up to the C tier. Garchomp is not good, guys. I wish it was good. I do. There have been times where I feel like they've been increasing this Pokemon's viability. I think the issue inside of Pokemon Unite is so much of this game is decided by the last hit you are getting on something. It's decided by the secure power of a Pokemon. So it's weird when you think of a Blissey, and a Blissey has better secure than Garchomp. I would rather have Blissey around a Dreadnought than Garchomp. Garchomp isn't going to secure it. I'll tell you what Garchomp's going to do, and you all know this is true. I'll tell you what Garchomp's going to do right now. Garchomp is going to be at one of the objectives, Rotom probably, by themselves. They're going to be attacking it by themselves, but they have no secure. So one Pokemon is going to walk up there. Blissey's going to walk up there with an Egg Bomb. Talonflame's going to fly in with a Brave Bird. A Shadow Ball is going to fly out of nowhere. Whatever it is, something is going to walk up to Garchomp and take that Rotom from it. Take that Dreadnought from it. All Garchomp is doing all game is spending its time getting every objective ready for the enemy team to secure it. And it's so frustrating. That being said, it's not unplayable. I don't even think we're going to have too many Pokemon in this D tier at all. I think it's right there with Zera Aura. Gosh, it's worse than Zera Aura, though. Is it? Dang, is it worse than Zera Aura? Thank you so much, by the way. Garchomp over Zera. Yeah. So this is where I'm at. I can't tell if Garchomp... I don't know where to put these two. I don't know what to do with you two knuckleheads. This is interesting. These are two friggin' knuckleheads. By the way, and if for anyone out there who loves playing Garchomp, loves playing Zera Aura, and is great with them, more power to you. I know people who are great with these Pokemon, don't get me wrong. I just think that doesn't mean that these Pokemon are When you look at a tier list, you look at someone like Blissey and you say, Blissey is crazy overpowered. When you look at this tier list, you look at Garchomp and you could say, I know someone who's amazing with Garchomp and they consistently win and they know how to play it. That doesn't mean it's overpowered. And that's kind of what you're looking at with this tier list. I am going to put it in the C tier. It still needs some love. I think it needs some way to secure things. Maybe if its attacks did more damage, the lower health something was. I don't know. Yeah, Drostar says rank 1 Garchomp player Phil Umis makes it seem god tier, but the Pokemon itself is B-. I could see that. Make Zera B- and leave Chomp in C. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Could you imagine if I had a B- tier? I think people would riot. I don't know. What are we doing? I mean, what are we doing if we have a B- tier right now? Wow. I don't even... No. This isn't right. This isn't right. Is there a governing body that can do something about this right now? We have a B tier. Already I'm furious about it. We have a B+ tier. That was too much. Now we have a B- tier. I don't like this at all. I don't like this at all, and I don't know. I don't know where... I mean, once again, I just have to say live every day like it's your last, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow at this point. Maybe Zera's better than Garchomp. Maybe. Maybe it's not. I don't even know. Honestly, these two Pokemon, I swear, they need some help. They really need some help. All right, next all-rounder, Lucario. Lucario is probably B tier right now. All right, enough of this. Lucario is S tier. It's always been S tier. It's always going to be S tier. I don't know who needs to hear this about Lucario, but I'm going to say this because... I also have to recognize that someone could be watching this video for the first time and they might not understand why Lucario is in the S tier and you accidentally put Zera above Chomp. I don't know what to do with either of these, if I'm being honest. I kind of want to create the B- tier and leave them both in C. Maybe I will do that. All right. Lucario here is up in our S tier. Lucario power-up bunch is amazing. It secures KOs and it secures objectives. It's incredible. Close combat does insane damage, helps secure things, heals Lucario. Why? Extreme speed is one of the best team fighting moves in the entire game. It also does really good damage and can secure objectives and can get you in and out of any situation. Bone Rush resets it. I mean, you could run E-Speed, close combat. Lucario's on every competitive team that has ever existed. It's only now slightly not being used, sometimes a little bit every once in a while, maybe not even that much. It's still so crazy good. They're never going to fix this Pokemon. Never. Never. Okay. A tier, Machamp. I think Machamp is definitely A tier. A tier Machamp. It secures well early with Karate Chop. Dynamic Punch, I think, is great. Both Close Combat and Cross Chop have some use. Submission is probably the only thing about Machamp that is not super, super solid. Its Unite move is very good. I've noticed Machamp's Unite move. One of the interesting things about it is Machamp will Unite, and then you are scaring the entire enemy team for a while. So you can Unite and then immediately throw your punches, but you don't have to. So if you Unite and kind of are moving around the enemy team, that you see them all going, whoa, I don't know, what do we do about this Machamp? So its Unite move is not only incredible because of what it does when you finally get to hit with it, it also makes you crazy strong, but you scare the enemy team, you can kind of funnel them into bad situations. I just really love what Machamp is doing in the game right now. It does compete with Lucario for that top lane. I think it's great. Machamp is really great. And you Garchomp and Zera Aura, you two could learn something from Machamp. I don't think they're hanging out in B- tier very long at all. Let's see. Zarina. I am thinking this Pokemon, it's inching its way up to A for me. I might even put it A for a moment here. So I think right now Zarina, I mean, it got a small buff, but it, you know, a little can go a long way. I think Stomp is very, very good. It's very good. Its secure is amazing. So when you look at a Pokemon like Zarina and you compare it directly to someone like Garchomp, one of the reasons that Zarina is so much better is because of this massive amount of burst damage. If you're able to secure an objective or a KO, the value is insane. I know that this is obvious, but it's something to think about. A Pokemon on the enemy team loses 0 value if their health is at 1/4 as opposed to at 3/4. Like, there's no difference between its value. Now, it might not be fighting the same way because they don't want to get KO'd. That's something we can talk about. But a Pokemon essentially doesn't lose any value in the game unless they are stunned, they're slowed, they're put to sleep, or they are KO'd. So you don't really lose much value at all by dealing consistent damage on enemy Pokemon. Taking consistent damage. That Pokemon really doesn't lose any value as a Pokemon on the battlefield. However, if that Pokemon does not exist anymore, it loses a ton of value. And the way Pokemon don't exist are large bursts of damage. This is how things get deleted. It's why Spirit Shackle can be so valuable. It's why Stomp on Zarina is so amazing. If your enemy is running soft-boiled Blissey, you're not going to give them time to heal if you're stomping on them with Zarina. However, you are giving them time to heal if you're, trying to rip them apart with Garchomp, or you're trying to Razor Leaf Decidueye. So that's why Pokemon with huge bursts of damage are so incredibly valuable. And I know that seems like an obvious thing to bring up, but it's just something important to think about. It doesn't matter how much damage you did to everyone on the enemy team if you weren't able to take them out of commission in some way. Jake just want to divorce me. No other reason to have Garchomp in the B- when it clearly is in the God tier. Read my message loud and clear, trying to hurt my feelings. So that is why I think when a Pokemon like Zarina has, incredible burst damage, that's why it's so valuable right now. So I know that's a little bit of a long spiel as to say why Zarina is so good, but it's Stomp. Stomp is so good. And you'll notice all these A-tier Pokemon right now all have crazy good secure. Let's see, where is our next all-rounder at? Aegislash, I also think hangs out in A tier. It doesn't make it to S for me, but I think Aegislash is incredibly good. Its burst is great. The way it fights is really amazing. Wide guard, good. To go against my own video, wide guard is pretty dang good, and Aegislash is pretty dang good with it. So I think, especially given that it got a few buffs recently, this Pokemon fits into a lot of team comps pretty well. You can play it in Path, you can play it in the central area. Competitively, we're seeing it in the central area a ton. The only thing I think that stops this Pokemon from being S tier to me, when I think of an S tier Pokemon, I think of a Pokemon that is so good, it does something no other Pokemon can do, or it defines the way people play the game. And I don't think Aegislash is there yet for me. I think it's still amazing. I think it's definitely A, but I don't think it's so good that anyone's having a conversation where they say, you can't play the game because Aegislash... Like, we're not having those conversations, but we do have those conversations about Lucario, Hoopa, Blissey. These are Pokemon that you have conversations about. Lucario, in a weird way, is inching closer and closer to A as the days go by, but it's still hard to deny that it's insane. And when you see it on almost every championship winning team, you just have to recognize that that Pokemon is still crazy good, crazy broken. Our next all-rounder. All right, this might be a little wild. Azumarill. I'm going to put it B. I think it actually might be B right now. I think Azumarill is actually doing pretty well. It's definitely not any of the other all-rounders we've talked about for sure. In some ways, honestly, this is crazy, but it kind of rivals Charizard only in this sense. You don't need the central area for Azumarill to be good. You do need the central area on Charizard to be good, for the most part. I mean, you could stack Char, but you kind of need that experience on Char. Azumarill, you don't really, but it's still Azumarill. It's still a little, The thing that's amazing about Azumarill is you're going to go into every big fight with a Unite move. And we're going to talk about a Pokemon a little later that just got released, Delphox, that goes into every big fight with a Unite move. So that's incredibly valuable. If you can delete an enemy Pokemon in every single fight, you're giving your team a huge advantage. That being said, I still think it gets outclassed by every all-rounder that sits above it. It's just doing a lot better right now. It's doing a lot better. Yes, Azu gets carried by its ult. I agree. It definitely gets carried by its Unite move, for sure. Next all-rounder, Dragonite. This is weird. I'm going to put Dragonite B+. So, I think we could see Dragonite actually making a bit of a splash in the regional qualifiers coming up here next week, or well, this coming weekend actually. We could see Dragonite make a splash here. In some ways, I actually think it might be better than Char right now. It might be better than Char right now. So it got a very small buff. I want to be clear about this buff. This buff was incredibly small. It was the 1 stack of an attack weight as a buff. So I don't think that this buff is not unbelievable, is not huge. I don't think this buff is not huge. Hold on, let me work that sentence out in my head. I don't think, I've got it. I don't think this buff is huge, but I do think that Dragonite is pretty dang solid right now. To me, it feels like it hangs out in the B+ tier instead of the A, and I will tell you why. When I'm thinking of this Pokemon and where to put it, I think you're probably putting it in the central area. If you want this Pokemon to succeed, you need to be level 8 by the time you get to that first Dreadnought. And when you're looking at this Pokemon used competitively, everyone knows that. I watched a ton of games over the weekend where top teams were trying to run Dragonite, and basically all the enemy team had to do was make their way into the central area, deny some experience from Dragonite, and then that Pokemon was way, way, way behind. This feels a lot like Char, but in some ways even more devastating that it gets behind, because Dragonite really needs to be at every objective with a big Hyper Beam. If you are, this Pokemon's pretty amazing, but you're giving up a central area spot that could be held by Aegislash, could be held by Pokemon we'll talk about later, like Greninja, Cramorant, Cinderace is seeing some play still, Blastoise a little bit. So I think the thing that holds this back from being an A-tier choice is it really has to compete with so many good Pokemon for its position, and I don't think it blows them out of the water. So I think Dragonite's probably B+. I do. I know a lot of people in the chat think it's A. They think it's A, but I think it's probably B+. And it's not only because of how it functions, but it's how you have to position it in the game to be good. That's just my thought. However, I mean, we could see a ton of it at the regionals. We really could. It's definitely rising in popularity. I'm seeing a lot of teams try to run it. Are we missing any all-rounders? I don't think so. I don't think so. Let's see. Nerf Spragels. They'll never do it. They refuse. Let's see. Do we want to go with defenders? Do we want to go... Well, attackers we're going to do last, I guess, right? Because that's our newest Pokemon. So let's go with defenders. Defender time. Let's start with Crustle. Crustle might be B. Maybe B-. So here's the thing with Crustle. It's been kind of for a while. But I think I have to say B-. I think I have to. I think it's the best of the B- right now. I don't even know about you guys. I don't know what to do with you two. You two freaking knuckleheads. I think it might be the best B- Pokemon right now. So it's Stealth Rock, still pretty good. It crits again. It's X-Scissor finally got a little bit of love. And it's weird because you would think a small cooldown reduction on X-Scissor wouldn't be that big of a deal. But it actually does make a huge difference because your cooldown on X-Scissor starts as soon as you start using X-Scissor. So the whole time you're going, you're already in cooldown for that move. So a 2-second cooldown on a move that I don't know how long it takes to complete, but a 1.5 seconds or so, you're getting a lot of time back for this move. And I think because of that, this Pokemon is rising in popularity. I don't know if anyone's bold enough to play this competitively right now, but I actually think it's doing better than both Garchomp and Zera Aura. I have to be honest with you. I do. All right, let's see. Our next defender. I want to talk about Blastoise, but I don't know if I want to talk about Blastoise yet. Let's talk about Snorlax. Snorlax is, I think, struggling the most of maybe any Pokemon in the game right now. It might be Snorlax. I've only seen one team use it competitively, effectively at all. Solo queue, it's a nightmare. Honestly, playing Snorlax in solo queue is an absolute nightmare. Flail is bad because it's just not the Pokemon you should be using a move like that on. So I know that some people are good with it. It's weird. When you're playing solo and you're playing Flail, you can definitely make some amazing things happen. But at the same time, this is not the point of this character. I feel like if you want to play Flail, honestly, play Garchomp, play Outrage Dragonite, play Crustle with X-Scissor. These aren't all the same things. It just gets outclassed by almost everything. It's true. I see this in the chat from Ryan's channel. He has a good early game. That is very true. I think it has a very good early game. I think this Pokemon's block and Heavy Slam are still really good, but there are also a lot of times where it feels like you can't block and Heavy Slam what you need to. I don't know. It feels like in a meta that is so incredibly tanky right now, somehow the biggest tank is not that useful. It's just not that useful. So, I don't know. Me personally, I think it's one of the worst Pokemon in the game currently. Again, everything on this list is playable, but I don't see a lot of value in this Pokemon. We could talk about Blastoise. I actually think it might be B+. That might even be... I might be being too kind to Blastoise right now. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Oh, super chat. Thank you, Jake. This is once again Jake from the future. If you don't move up Garchomp, there will be an even bigger apocalypse with like 30 B tiers. Wow. All right, well, I got to do something about this Garchomp then. Okay, so let's see. Blastoise. Blastoise, I might be being too kind. Here's what I think. At one point it was S, but they really nerfed this Pokemon. Its Unite move, it feels a lot worse damage-wise. It's still amazing. It still knocks everyone on the enemy team up. It's incredible for its utility, and it still does decent damage, but boy, oh boy, it is not the same. Rapid Spin Water Spout, not the same because you are not unstoppable anymore with this Pokemon. This could be B, but I think you're going to see a lot of teams not use this Pokemon at all when you're talking about competitive play. Outside of competitive play, I think when you're looking at a Pokemon, any of these Pokemon here in this B+ tier, you could still destroy with them. In fact, anything in, the B tier as well. You could still probably destroy with this Pokemon. When I was playing Blastoise, I thought, yeah, this Pokemon's still really good. But you know what I didn't think is it is S. I didn't think it's S. I have Zoinks saying you need to stack with it now. That's interesting. And good to see you, Zoinks, by the way. Zoinks is saying you need to stack with it. I stack with everything, so I've always needed to stack with it. I've got a need to stack. But as far as the rest of, the players out there, maybe now they need to stack and they don't love it.
That's a stack.
Okay, let's see. Moving on from this Pokemon, we've got ourselves... Let's do Greedent. Controversial choice. I think I'm probably the most optimistic person on Greedent in Pokemon Unite. I think Greedent is still one of the most devastating characters in the game. They kept nerfing it, but it doesn't matter. It's somehow better than it was at some point in a weird way. Very much like the rest of the S tier, as I say oftentimes about Greedent, it does things that no other Pokemon really can do. It's un-KOable, it's disruptive, it can play top lane, it can play your central area. Both builds on it are interesting competitively. Covet Belch has seen all the play, but when you're not playing competitively, I even think that Stuffed Cheeks Bullet Seed is an amazing build. I know a lot of people think it's A. Everyone in my chat's saying it's A, and I respect you, and I respectfully will say that I'm happy being wrong here. I just think it's straight up silly goose tier. It's straight up silly goose tier, and I'll never apologize for putting Greedent in the silly goose tier. Now, if they nerf it again, it might start to really go boo, 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 boo. But I think it's a straight up S tier Pokemon. It's going to be hard to convince me otherwise. It's on a ton of championship winning teams. But, I could be wrong. I always could be wrong. That's where I'm putting it. Mammo's B. Mammo's B. Pretty good. Might be B+. I'm trying to think. Mammo's B, maybe B+. Honestly, sometimes I think Mammo's... In Path early, it's way better than Blastoise. Way better. But as it starts to go on, I feel like it starts to fall off. It starts to slide, I think, which is a bummer because I love it. I love Icicle Crash High Horsepower. It is so fun. I have a video on my channel, by the way. If you haven't seen it, there's a video of me doing High Horsepower Icicle Crash. For a little while, I played, you know, 25 games of Mamo or something in a row, and I was just loving Mamoswine. So I think that's where I'm going to leave it, though. I think I'm going to leave it be. I think Icicle Crash, High Horsepower is the build for it. But if you're on a coordinated team, I think you could make some incredible stuff happen with Ice Fang. I'm going to move Garchomp out of this tier. Maybe I'll put him B- for now. I don't know where you're going, Garchomp. I don't know where you're going, Zera Aura. But the two of you are problems right now. All right. Thank you, Blockade. 9 months of being a member. We got ourselves a baby. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for giving me a child. Let's see. Slowbro. I think Slowbro, I mean, if you're going to say Blastoise is B+, I think Slowbro is also B+. I think it's really good. I think Scald is a bit of a bait. I don't think it's as good as people think it is. He kind of turns you into an attacker, but the way to play this Pokemon is with Surf, in my opinion. If you're going to see it competitively, it's always going to be with Surf, I would assume, unless the team is trying something very, very bizarre, but I think you're going to see it with Surf almost all the time. Its Unite move is brutal. Its Unite move is brutal. It's such a good Unite move. One of the best in the game. I think, I mean, interesting, my chat's saying Slowbro over Blastoise. I'm kind of thinking that too. But to do that, because I don't think Slowbro is necessarily A, I'd kind of have to put Blastoise down in B, which I'm not crazy opposed to. I'll think about it. But I think that Slowbro is just kind of nuts right now. If the ordering does matter, whoa. Slowbro and B++, I don't think we could do that. I mean, that's... If we had something like that, I mean, I don't even know. All right. Well, why is this the way it is? This is why you don't do this live. B++? Mother of God. I mean, what do we do with something like this? At this point, this tier list is chaos. I don't even have enough shades of blue to make this make sense. So now it's purple at this point in the tier list. I mean, you know, we were all here for it. We all agree that this is what had to happen. It doesn't feel right, you know? It kind of makes you sick to your stomach that something like this is going on. But here's where we are, guys. I don't know what to tell you at this point. We have a B++ tier, and that's wrong. That's just friggin' wrong, but it's what we have. I think Slowbro's really good. I think it definitely deserves to be in the B++ tier. We can't do this live. We can't do this live. Too much fun is being had when you do it live. All right, let's see. Trevenant. Well, you know what? I actually kind of like Trevenant in the B++ tier. I'm glad I got this B++ tier right now. So... Trevenant, I think, is really, really good. It's one of the best defenders in the game that kind of fills that actual defender role. But the more I've seen it used, the more I would say it's probably not a full-on A tier. It's close to A, though. It's close to A. Someone wants a B+++. I'm going to freaking lose it. It might be A, actually. I just kind of like that we have this new list, but actually, it might be A. I'm thinking it's low A, high B++. It's low A, high B++, okay? This is where this Pokemon goes. And the thing I think that's actually going to push it up to... Oh, I see this in the chat, too. The thing I think that's going to push this up to an A tier choice for me is because not only can you see it in a tank role, you can also see it as a top lane role. And I think that is pretty... I think that's pretty unique for a defender like this. The only other Pokemon that you can do that with kind of is Greedent. And people have mentioned, I saw Lutano in there, mentioned, I believe, from GG. And I think because you see teams do inventive things with Trevenant, it's still viable and possible. I think teams are sleeping on this Pokemon. I really do. I'm shocked I don't see more teams running it. It's either A tier or high B++. I'm not sure. I might put it back down to high B++, but you know me, I probably will never go back to it, right? Think we need an A- tier? That would be crazy. We can't do that. Let's see. Do we have any other defenders? I got them all, right? I got them all. We're on to our attackers right here. I think that's probably about right for Trev. But I'm not entirely sure. Day 746 of the apocalypse, the B tiers have gathered together and formed a super B tier. If only past Jake heeded my warnings. I'm sorry, Jake23. I don't know what to tell you. Jake23 in the future. Crazy. All right, on to our attackers. Where do we want to start? Let's start with a Pokemon that I think is always in this weird position, and that's Venusaur. I think Venusaur, I almost called it Venusaur, so do with that what you will. It could be a Venusaur. I think Venusaur is almost always the best, and then almost always B. So right now I'm putting it B++. Over the weekend, I saw some teams running it, and I think they're finding its slot in the attacker role and using it to great success, but at the same time, I actually don't think it's crazy overpowered or anything like that. I just think it's Venusaur. It's B tier-nosaur, but it's better than a lot of the B tier right now. You're welcome for B++. Yeah, it's Venusaur. So I think Venusaur is probably hanging out here. Petal Dance, Giga Drain, still amazing. I bet some teams could find some synergy with Solar Beam as well. We saw Solar Beam being used by some teams competitively before the recent Solar Beam nerf. So I think this Pokemon is still very, very good. A lot of people are thinking it's maybe closer to B+ than B++. And, you know, all I can say is at the end of the day, this is my tier list. And if you're mad that it's B++ instead of B+, I understand. And if you want to cut ties with me, I get it. But I'm not changing my mind on this one. Let's see. Cramorant. Cramorant's another Pokemon that I think is in the B++ tier. So it might be hovering into the A tier, but there's really only one build and one situation that I've seen Cram really excel in, and that's Dive, Air Slash, running it mainly from the central area. I think teams could run it partially central, like split with it. I haven't seen anyone try this yet, but I think teams could split center with Sylveon Cram, run it bottom as an attacker, then let it get the next rotation. I think you could do something like that with it. I don't want to put this any higher because I don't want them to nerf this Pokemon. And I know they're not looking at my videos, but at the same time, I don't even want people to think that this Pokemon is an A tier. From the chat, remember when you thought the dive change was a nerf? I do remember that, Timiq. I do remember when I thought that because it read like a nerf, but it was indeed a buff. And then it got its Unite move buffed. I still think if it didn't, here's my claim. Are we ready for a claim? This is an official claim alert. I don't have a sounder for it.
That's a stack.
Official claim alert right here. If Air Slash was not nerfed on this Pokemon, this would probably be an S tier Pokemon right now. That's what I think. But right now I'm going to leave it B++ for this sake. Let's see. Next Pokemon I want to talk about. I want to talk about Doraledon. I'm going to put Doraledon in B+. I think Doraledon is being slept on in the competitive landscape of this game. I still think it's pretty dang amazing. Solo, I think this is like solo, duo, trio. I still think this Pokemon is absolutely obscene. The enemy team has to show up on time to every single freaking thing in the entire game. Everything. They have to show up on time to everything in the entire game or it goes away immediately. It reminds me a little bit of Dragonite in that respect as well, which is probably why I think hanging out here in this B+ tier makes sense to me. I do think this Pokemon's being slept on though. I think it's being slept on competitively. We'll see if anyone ends up running it here, but Dragon Pulse, by the way, still the build in my opinion. Dragon Pulse for sure. Who's next? I think Gardevoir, it's weird. Okay, so Gardevoir is in some ways worse than the Pokemon I'm looking at here in the B+ tier, and in some ways better. It recently just got buffed up. It's really buffed up here. And I think because it's just gotten so many buffs and it hasn't been much time, I think people have not had the chance to really sit down with it and make it work. Competitively, it just is, as I say often about lots of Pokemon, it's just competing for the most sought after spot in the entire game, and that is that central area Pokemon. The reason that spot is so sought after is because there are certain Pokemon inside this game that get so good when they are a high level, that there are many Pokemon that you want to put in that role. You want to put Greninja, you want to put Dragonite, you want to put Zera Aura if you have a Zera Aura. You want so many Pokemon to be a high level, and the only way to do that is giving them all of that safe farm in the central area. And because of that, I think Gardevoir struggles a little bit because there are just so many other people competing for its slot. But I think it's really solid right now, and has a lot of nice buffs. Guard is B++ right now. Can't change my mind. Nice. Let's see. Our next attacker, I'm going to say Ninetales is probably B+. It might be B++. B+, B++. It's in here somewhere. Maybe here. I think Ninetales is really solid right now. Dazzling Gleam, still amazing. I actually love the Avalanche Blizzard build, but I don't think that's super competitively viable. However, I do think that Dazzling Gleam is still really, really amazing here. It could be just B+, but I mean, at this point, we're splitting hairs here. We have a B tier that has morphed into multiple tiers. I think it's just really good, but it doesn't strike me as an A tier Pokemon. At one point it was, and then they kind of nerfed it. The same with our next Pokemon. I think it's very solid, and that's Pikachu. I don't think either of these make it to the A tier for me anymore. Pikachu, not because of nerfs or anything like that. The Buddy Barrier nerf is probably one of the biggest reasons Pikachu has been hurt. I still think it's really solid. You'll see teams run it in the attacker role, and interestingly enough, if you look at my entire B tier, B++ tier, mother of God. If you look at my entire B++ tier, a lot of these are Pokemon that could be slotted into the attacker role when you're looking at it competitively. And something that they just have an issue with is getting dove in on. Almost none of them besides Cramorant. Well, I guess Cram and Venusaur both have some mobility right there, right? But, you know, Guard, Ninetales, Pikachu, it's really difficult for them to deal with being jumped on. So I think that's where all three of them are going to sit for me. Let's see. Cinderace. What do I do with you? What do I do with Cinderace? A Pokemon who is always great. It's just always great. I feel like it's A. I feel like it's always great. Yeah, I think it's A. I just think Cinderace is always really good. It's hard to say that it's not an A tier Pokemon. B++ maybe. It just feels like it's definitely, yeah, a lot of the chat's saying it as well. It just feels like very, very A to me, you know? We demand one Yeehaw every 15 minutes. Or what's going to happen? Yeehaw. Okay, there's my one for now. I think it's solid A. I think it's a solid A tier. I do think it's outclassed by another attacker for the same role, but I do think it's a solid A tier Pokemon. Blaze Kick's still amazing. I think Pyro Ball has some use right now. Probably not competitively, but I do think Pyro Ball has some use. But I would say that that's an A tier. That's an A tier for me. That's an A tier for me. Let's see. I'll talk about Greninja right now. I still think it's S. I think Greninja is the best center path Pokemon in the game, probably. However, I do feel like that nerf to Surf was big. The thing about Greninja being an S tier for me is, again, the role is so competitive that if a team goes, yeah, we're not running Greninja, I don't think they're making a huge mistake or anything like that. I just think if you're comparing it to most or all other Pokemon in that role, I think it does outshine them. Let's see. Super chat from Jake23 from the future. Apocalypse Day 747. Lost Jake39. Good Jake, good soldier. Good news is we found a weakness for the B tiers. I'll go behind enemy lines tomorrow. Whoa! I can't believe what's happening there in the future, but for the present, we still have a B tier. And right now, I just think it's still S. Even though the Surf got hurt, I still think it's pretty amazing. And I see competitive teams running it. It's great. It's just great. Sylveon is probably B++. The thing that stops Sylveon from being A tier for me is that you kind of need a specific way to play this Pokemon early to make it really shine. Competitively, this Pokemon is in such a unique slot that it's better than it is solo. Solo especially, this Pokemon can kind of struggle sometimes, but competitively, Sylveon is just a bit of a monster here. I am seeing some teams hop off of it though, and I'm interested to see what more teams end up doing here. Regionals are coming up, and this is going to be the last chance that some of these teams have to be on the world stage playing some of these Pokemon, I'm not sure how much Sylveon we're going to see. Still really good. Sylveon also felt like a bit of a counter to Blastoise in a lot of ways, and Blastoise is kind of gone, you know? Decidueye. I think Decidueye is definitely A. I think it's definitely A. This is another Pokemon I'm probably more optimistic on than others, but competitively, I get it. It has issues with mobility. It's very squishy. Outside of only competitive play, this Pokemon is good in almost every single situation ever. It's so good. You can secure an objective. You're not even there. You're on the phone. You're talking to your girl. She's yelling at you for God knows what reason. You never pay attention to her. And then at the same time, you're securing Dreadnought. It's just crazy. So I think that this Pokemon is just nuts. It's so difficult to deal with. I think it's definitely an A-tier Pokemon for me. Different from a Cinderace. You can actually play it in Path and still get almost the same value out of it. So I like playing it in Path a lot more than I do in the Central area lately. Espeon. Espeon's an interesting one. I think Espeon is probably in the B tier. I was a little hot on Espeon when it first came out. I think I overvalued it a bit, and the reason I overvalued it is because of its Unite move. You get its Unite move a lot. It's really disruptive. I think more disruptive than people gave it credit for, but it still is very squishy, and it has very little mobility outside of needing to use an eject button. Because of that, it's kind of shut down pretty hard. So you have this Pokemon that actually deals out a lot of damage, actually has good stuns, has a pretty devastating Unite move. It just can't survive long enough. I think if they increase the tankiness of this Pokemon, Espeon would start to get used more and more. I could even see someone saying that Espeon falls closer to the B- tier, but I do think it's probably better than a lot of what we see in this B- tier right now. So I'm going to say it's B. It's very fine. Espeon is very fine to me. It's like, it's fine. It's fine. Let's see here. Oh, my chat's asking what's the sponsor right here. Oh, I can't believe I forgot to do our sponsor read for today. Let me do that really quick while I have you all here. Today's video is sponsored by Cookies That Are Bad. Would you like a cookie that is not very good? Go to cookiesthatAreBad.com. These cookies are going to be delivered directly to your home. Use promo code BADCookies for they're out of business. Dang it. They're out of business. Another sponsor gone. Sorry, Cookies That Are Bad. All right, back to our tier list right here. I think that's where Espeon sits right here. And now finally, let's talk about Delphox. I'm setting Delphox into the God tier for a moment while I speak about this Pokemon, but I'm gonna spoiler it right now. This is not a God tier Pokemon. I think Delphox is very good. Very good. I think Fire Spin's nuts. I think Fire Spin will be getting a nerf. I think its Unite move is crazy. You get its Unite move every 1 second inside this game. I think its Unite move actually does more than people think. The slowing effect of its Unite move is unbelievably brutal. The healing that it stops is incredible. The thing about this Pokemon for me that stops it from being S tier, and so there's another spoiler, it's not S tier for me. The thing that stops this Pokemon from being S tier is its mobility. And then if you run its build that has mobility, you could be very good with it, but I feel like you're almost playing a worse Cinderace at that point. Not that you can't be great with it. I've seen some people break ankles with this Pokemon with its mobility build, but to not play Fire Spin is a crime against God. Do not play Fire Spin is one of the most blasphemous things that anyone could ever do. If you don't play Fire Spin, I do think people should come to your home, put a bag over your head, and take you away from your family. I don't know if you'll ever return. That being said, I don't think this Pokemon is the most broken thing ever. I'm putting it in the A tier for now. I think it's a very solid A tier Pokemon. I think it's really good. I think it's really good, and I think if this Pokemon was legal for I was thinking of making a barely legal joke, but it's not legal. This Pokemon is barely illegal for the tournament coming up on Saturday. So I think if this Pokemon was barely legal for it, this Pokemon would be at the tournament. I think teams would be trying to run it. I think it would be in the bottom path, presumably, or you would split central area, run it bottom, get it its level 7 before before Dread. I could see something like that. I think Delphox is nuts. I think it's pretty nuts. It's one of the best releases they've had in a little while here. Like, what were our most recent ones? Before Delphox, it was Espeon, which I think is okay. And then it was Azumarill. Yeah, I think in the last little bit, this has probably been the best Pokemon release since Doraledon, who released Broken, right? So Delphox, yeah, I think it's A. I think it's definitely A for me. And now it's time to decide who the God tier Pokemon is for this week. And crazy enough, God is dead. There's no God. No, okay, we're gonna pick one. And you've already seen me do it before. I'm doing it again for another week in a row. I think it's Blissey. I think Blissey is still our God tier Pokemon for this patch. I think it's so freaking good. The only other Pokemon that compares to it is Hoopa, in my opinion, and that's just because Hoopa is unbelievably so good. As I've done before, I kind of put them both in their own tier. But right now, I think you're going to see every single competitive team running a Blissey. It's amazing solo queue. It's even a supporter that you can play solo. It's that good. So I think that Blissey is probably the best Pokemon. For me, well, I really smacked my microphone there. For me, I think that this is probably the best Pokemon in the game right now. And now people are here live for this moment. Thanks for hanging out. Bum, 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 ba-da-da-da. It's got to be something believable up there, right? I think Dragonite's a little believable. I could put Delphox. Okay, here's one. Yep. The fact of the matter is, Delphox does not do anything in the grand scheme of things. Yes, Fire Spin is good. We had a lot of fun with Fire Spin when it first came out, but it doesn't do anything as the match goes on. It's just a little ball of fire that's chasing it's not that impactful, and that's why I think this is it's one of the most underwhelming, underpowered releases of the recent memory here. And of course, we all know the Lucario nerfs destroyed Lucario. Let's talk about Dragonite. Massive buff to attack. Massive buff to attack. All of a sudden, Dragonite's back on top where it needs to be, beating out Hoopa, beating out Eldegoss, who's, probably the best supporter in the game right now. And then, of course, we see, the tragic Crams low, Absol's obviously bad. And then we have Pikachu, Ninetales, who just are really not doing it right now. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you to everyone who was here live for this, by the way. I really do appreciate it. I don't know if I'll do another live because this thing got long, but I'll tell you, it was a fun time. I love you. I will see you all very, very soon. Mwah!